So what is this stone thing that was found in Tario's cremated remains? Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to episode 6 of Heavenly Delusion. And the end of last episode was very interesting. Because after Tario died, which honestly we expected, we see there's this mysterious stone-like object found in the cremated remains that just didn't burn up with the rest of the body. Something that was obviously inside him that no one else there expected. Like, even the director was shocked by this. No one knows what this, I assume, means. Now, like, it doesn't seem to be like some kind of tumor or anything or growth, because you feel like that would have burnt up too, unless somehow whatever is causing this causes it to be fireproof or something. I don't know. Um, but it's pretty likely, I feel, that it's the cause for his disease, and the disease that we've seen has like affected others and stuff. It's interesting though, because this clearly seems to be new, because they've stated that there's only one person who ever died before here, and they committed suicide. I don't remember if it said that they also had the disease or not, but they committed suicide, and that's how they actually died. This was the first person to actually die from this disease, so I'm thinking it's probably new. Um, Meanwhile, back in the other plot line, Kiriko had an absolute panic attack because he thought that Maru had gone missing or had left him and everything. And with everything that Kiriko has lost so far, all the like trauma he's been through, it's like, yeah, that would probably do him in if something like that happened. He probably would not be in a good place mentally at all. Um, Speaking as someone who's had a lot of mental health issues and everything, and who has, a lot of fears of people abandoning me, it's something that I very much can understand and like connect with. Um he's he's a very he's a very like real type of character, I feel. Despite the like kind of sci-fi stuff going on with him being implanted in his sister's body, like his personality, his fears, his emotions are very human. And there's a lot of, and I'm saying that because there's a lot of time in anime where a lot of characters, they feel like characters. They feel like they're not exactly real in their portrayal. They come across as very forced or unnatural, or just, played up because it's anime. And there's a lot of times you can get away with that. You don't expect a JoJo's Bizarre Adventure character to feel like a real person. No, you want them to be larger than life. That's the intent. You want them to be crazy and weird and wild. But sometimes a show works better with more human characters, with characters who feel very down to earth, realistic, and like you could imagine meeting people like this in real life, maybe even have. And this is a series that, while yes, it has monsters, it has sci-fi bullshit, the biggest core of this series is absolutely humanity. The humanity that these characters have for themselves, for each other. You see it within Heaven, with all these kids like being at that age where their hormones start to act up and they start experimenting with and trying to figure out sexuality and all. A very normal human thing. And despite the fact that they were never told about this, they were actively not told about this by the director and the scientists working there, they still discovered it because it's human nature. It just comes naturally. And the only difference is they don't know how to express it. Because they were never told about it, they're not 100% on what those feelings exactly mean and how to properly express them. Which we see with the one guy talking to the girl he likes about wanting to touch her body and stuff, and really being awkward at explaining it, which makes sense. It's like very real. And you see this a lot with Maru and Kiriko and their reactions to things. Even just Maru's like conflict of like how to feel about Kiriko after finding out that he's a guy. It's like, I like him, but what do I do now that I know he's a guy? And this is obviously something that a lot of queer people go through in real life. Realizing they have feelings for other guys, girls realizing they have feelings for other girls. Obviously, it's a very different situation. Obviously, there's a lot that makes this very unique and different, but the idea is absolutely there. And I very much believe it was intentional that way. I very much believe, like, how can you not, that was meant to be intentionally talking about that kind of subject? It's just a sly way of slipping it in, making it more science fiction-y, and talking about the weird aspects of all of that in order to kind of give a story about queerness in a way. And I think that's the kind of stuff that makes me so invested in this series. The depths of storytelling that have these hidden meanings, but also, again, on the surface, are just about humanity. Are just about showing how human people can be. And we've seen people, like, go through different things too. It's not always just the super positive aspects. We see that mother, the inn owner, who's gone crazy because she believes that this monster that ate her son is her son. That they've, like, connected because this monster has seemingly been protecting her, and it leads to her death. And you see these people who, in this apocalyptic world, have had to resort to becoming thugs and shit to survive, in a lot of cases. And yeah, there's obviously just people who are just bad people, who are just pieces of crap. But you know, a lot of people have had to do whatever it takes just to keep going. We're like 20 years into a post-apocalyptic world. It's like, yeah, people are going to be desperate. That's humanity too. And even the people who are just bad people, that's part of humanity. Sometimes human beings are just bad people. There's not always a lot of gray area to it. Sometimes it is very black and white. And sometimes there is a lot of nuance to it. Sometimes there's a reason why some of these bad people have become so bad. It doesn't excuse their behavior, but it explains it. Humanity is a very diverse people, for lack of a better way to put it. And because of that, the diversity, but also like the very natural feeling of human nature is important to this series. And that's definitely what sells me on it. And I mean, yeah, monsters are pretty cool, pretty interesting. The mystery of it all, like why the doctor did what he did, what happened to Robin, what the fuck is up with this heaven place, and their babies that they're cultivating. It's like there's a lot of mysteries that also are just very intriguing. And as of right now, I still don't believe there's any word of a second season. There absolutely could be, I'm sure, but I don't know how much material is left in the manga to adapt. I don't know like how much is left here that gets adapted. Excuse me. So it's a matter of where it ends up, I guess. I hope that the season doesn't end on like this big cliffhanger though. Um, because I don't want it to like end up never getting a season two and leave off on an unsatisfying place. I hate it when shows do that. But again, I don't think it would be because of well, I don't know. I was gonna say I don't think it'd be because of like what people think of it, because I've heard a lot of people really love this series, that it is really popular, but I think that popularity is mostly Western. I don't know how it did in Japan. So that is a different metric to take in. Um, I don't know. I guess we'll end up seeing. Maybe it'll leave off on a satisfying place. Maybe we'll find out about the Doctor and Robin and everything, and maybe we'll find out what's happening with Heaven, and it just, even if not everything is answered, at least it answers enough to satisfy us. Hopefully. But hopefully, if it's not all figured out this season, we just get a season two. That being said, we're going to get into this and hope for the best. I know I've been talking a while, but I had a lot to say here about the humanity of things. But let's just get into this, see what this episode has in store for us. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. This was a this was an episode. Um so there's really kind of, I guess, three parts to this episode to really discuss. Let's talk about the Heaven part first because that was super brief. We see that Tokyo did not contract the virus like she was worried about, which I didn't think she did. Like, it was just like a little sick. It happens. But she had this weird dream where she saw this floating child who looked very much like a very stereotypical alien and apparently recognized her. But then she started to like, her skin started to like turn as if it were like diseased and everything. And I wonder if that's foreshadowing. And what's the deal with, did she say her name was Ashura? What's that all about? Is like that actually someone who exists, or is that just like a dream thing going on? Because if that's someone who exists, what? Like, what the fuck? I need context? Because I'm just confused. Because we had so little time put into that part of the story in this episode. It didn't tell us anything. Excuse me. it almost felt entirely random. But it can't be. It has to be important somehow. I don't know. But then we had the A plot, which was focused again on Kiriko and Maru, and kind of split into two sections. There's the section with this girl at the hotel, um, which kind of bookends the parts, the episode, and then in between that, there's them going out and exploring and finding, the water, the flooded tunnel, with the guys inside and the bear. And so, yeah, we let's touch on that part first. So they find the tunnel that they were looking to find. They find the two people inside. One is already dead, the other one is dying. And they find out it's from a bear which they originally think is a man eater, a Hiriko. Um, because the guy tells them it was a monster. But this is like 20 years into an apocalypse where I don't know, it feels like a lot of wildlife has not been seen in this. But they know what certain animals are. So it must just be because of the fact that the bear like was missing fur around its head and like upper torso that they didn't entirely recognize it instantly as a bear. Plus, like bears can be surprisingly fast and deadly as hell, obviously. So the guy probably didn't even really see what hit him. Like he probably didn't even like realize what attacked him completely. Because bears are like one of the more terrifying animals out there. Like legitimately, they are so fucking scary. Because, like I said, they're surprisingly fast. You would think for their large frames and everything, they wouldn't be able to move as quick as they do, but they are very fast. And on top of that, if they feel like you're encroaching on their territory or you're like a danger to their cubs or trying to take their food or something like that, they will attack. And obviously, different bears have different like levels of viciousness and stuff, but still there's a lot of fear that comes from bears, and rightly so. So they had to deal with that. Kiriko trying to use his Kiru beam, and eventually, like, he drops his battery, which is like wild. It's like I would think in a situation like that you would be extra careful. But he manages to get Maru to go down to get it, risking the fact that the bear might still be around, with the promise of touching his boobs. It's like, listen, I know that Maru is like, what, 16 years old? He's a hormonal teen. Like, and he already has admitted to having feelings for Kiriko. And he admitted it to him. And again, a lot of that has, yes, come from the fact that Kiriko is, like, physically speaking, a feminine body. And a lot of those feelings came before Maru found out that Kiriko was a guy. So, yeah. he he was motivated to do this because, like, again, he's a dumb hormonal teen. I don't blame him for that. And we know Kiriko is like between 18 and 20 years old. Like if he's like 18, which I think he's probably more on the younger end. I think his sister was probably more on the older end of that. If he's 18, that's only 2 years apart. That's not that big of a deal. Um, if it were more than that, it would start to be a big deal. But like when you're around that age and it's like 16 to 18, it's like that's not that bad. If it were like 14 to 18, it's like no, that's fucked up. Or if it were like 16 and like 21, that would be fucked up. But like 16 and 18, that's not that big a deal, especially in a world like this. Um, but still, the fact is that Kiriko promised this purely because he was afraid to go down himself. And also, he was absolutely kind of weaponizing the fact that he knows Maru has a crush on him. And it's like, I'm kind of wondering, there's a lot of chemistry between them. And it's kind of making me wonder, like, with stuff like this as well. It's like, are they actually going to get together in the end? Like, I would be all game for that. But there's like multiple levels of kind of queerness to that, which I'm all good for. With a series like this, I think like there's some people who might feel it's a weird way to express that. But I think again there's a lot of metaphor and a lot of like what's I'm trying to think of the other word. My brain farts sometimes, and I completely forget the word I'm trying to think of. Um, but there's just a lot of metaphor in this series where it's like it uses sci-fi stuff to express real life kind of issues and ideas and whatnot. And a lot of shows do this. A lot of sci-fi does that. Like that's kind of sci-fi in general. It's a very common thing with the genre. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of metaphors surrounding like gender and sexuality, which I'm all about. You know that. But it's like I would be entirely good with them getting together because I do ship it, honestly. I do see them as a good pair. But this hotel girl, I can't remember her name. I'm sorry. Um, it was said like once or twice, but I just can't think of it. She ends up coming kind of between them here because they're like messing around, and he wants her to fulfill he wants him to fulfill his promise. He wants Kiriko to fulfill his promise back at the hotel. Um, and they start roughhousing a little and everything. It gets very very awkward. And again, hormonal teen. It's like what he's doing is like not great, but at the same time, it's like Kiriko did promise. I don't know. It's this weird like level to where it's like Kiriko did promise this, and even was saying, you know what this means, and you know I'm a guy. It's like if you're still okay with this, I'll keep the promise. But it's like he was being a little aggressive, and I think he knows that. I think he realizes that. It's just it was like kind of spur of the moment. He was losing control, and I don't think Kiriko entirely holds it against him. I don't think he does. But anyways, the girl comes in and stops them, pointing to like the rules on the wall and everything, and like no like making a mess of things. She takes Maru out to go to another room, and then it's like, oh, let have sex with me instead. And it's like, ma'am, where did this come from? I can't tell how old she's supposed to be, but it did say she was born after everything happened, meaning that she's under 20 years old, right? I would say she's probably around Maru's age. She looks like she's right around the same age. Like, I would say she's about 15, 16 years old. Um, so, her and Maru being together wouldn't be that big of an issue. But the problem is, it was not consensual. She was assaulting him. She just stripped herself down, grabbed his hand, put his hand on her boob, and then, like, everything went to hell after that, went crazy, and, like, he was refusing her. Like, he was not interested in her. Also, his line, I like older women. It's like, I don't think that was the issue. I think that was like him just trying to let her down easy. Because his attraction is specifically to Kiriko. Like, that's pretty obvious. And her just coming on to him like that, which she did, like, acknowledge afterwards. But her just coming on to him like that was not great. But she was also raised by people who aren't great. We know that. So that's, yeah, there's probably some issues there to unpack. Um, but yeah, she gets in a compromising position. Maru freaks out because he accidentally almost kills her using his Maru touch. Um, and and during it all, like, Kiriko comes in and it's like all this confusing thing. Everything gets explained, and Kiriko's more apologetic with Maru, like apologizing to her, even though it was her fault, which she even owns up to. She's like, no, I'm the one who did it. You don't have to apologize. Which is true. Like, it was entirely her. Like, you even saw, like, Maru breaking down afterwards because he was so scared and freaked out. Like, God, like, as someone who has been assaulted, it's definitely, it feels like that. Yeah, you definitely break down after. It's just not a good experience. It's not good. I can't speak. It's not okay. It's it's why that kind of shit always like makes me super uncomfortable whenever you see like anything even like hinting to that. This came about so suddenly. I barely had time to react, but it's just like, yeah, she absolutely assaulted him. And we do find out she was an orphan and she was raised by these bandits, these vigilantes. And she probably was not raised in the best way. She does seem to care about them, and it seems like there was still like a familial sense of relationship to the group. She was really upset when finding out the leader died, but at the same time, she was probably raised in a way that's kind of warped her sense on a lot of things. Because she's even still saying like she wants to become like the hotel king and everything, and she's willing to do anything to get there, even sleep with people. And it's like, I I feel it's very strongly implied that she's. I hate talking about a child like this, but considering how fucked up this entire situation is with her and with everything that's gone on in this series in general, it's something to talk about. I have a feeling she's probably not a virgin. Jesus. It's just so it's ewy talking about again who is most likely a minor that way. Although we technically don't know, but most likely. Again, I feel like she's right around Maru's age. And it's just like I have a feeling that again she was kind of raised into like having a more not great lifestyle. I don't entirely even blame her, but again, I've talked about it before. It's like this series is obviously touching on a lot of things, and one of the things it has touched on, at least with the Heaven storyline, is kids like having these feelings for each other and stuff, like independent of what they've been taught. But I don't think that's really connected necessarily. That's the thing. But it kind of goes with the idea of like this is how she was raised, this is how she was taught, instead of like in heaven where they weren't raised that way and discovered it naturally. And in the case of what we've seen with heaven, it's actually a lot more wholesome. Well, for the most part, at least. Mind you, like with the picture, the shower picture, someone sent that to him, and we still don't know who. That's not his fault, to be fair. Someone sent that to him without her knowledge, so that's not on him. But most of the romance stuff and everything we see within heaven is a lot more wholesome and natural. It's just, these kids exploring things because it's a natural feeling due to hormones and stuff. But what we're seeing with this girl, is more of the unnatural side, I feel. She was probably raised in a way to use like, everything she could to get what she needed to get, whether it be money or supplies or whatever else. And I mean, we know that these guys like gave Kiriko and Maru like the fake map and everything and lured them here in the first place. They were going to get, jumped basically. They were going to have all their stuff taken. And this girl was probably, at least to some degree in on it. Her hotel business was probably like a front for like looting people and shit. But she also, like, with the entire thing with Maru, she was even telling him, it's like, she was talking about payment and stuff. So it seems like she's more trying to earn the money through any means necessary rather than stealing it, but still using underhanded tactics. Because she's basically like saying, it's like, have sex with me, you pay me this much and everything. But she's already stripping down and already enticing him. She's, trying to make him want to have sex with her in order to, get that money out of him. Which is, again, not okay, but it's probably how these bandits have raised her to act. Maybe not specifically with the sex thing. That might have been something she came up with. We don't know. We don't have enough information. But it's still, it's this series kind of goes into nature versus nurture with this stuff. And it's just, it's wild. It was definitely the most uncomfortable scene of this series so far, I will say that. And honestly, like, prior to that, I would have thought the bear dying, like, which I do still feel bad for, would have been more uncomfortable. But then that happened, and it's like, oh, you're just, okay. Please don't get more uncomfortable. Don't take that as a challenge. And do not spoil me, by the way, anyone watching this. Don't spoil me on if something more uncomfortable does happen. I don't want spoilers. Because if something uncomfortable does happen, it's probably intentional. You're probably supposed to be discomforted by it. And I don't want to know that happens ahead of time, because I feel like it would, like, mess with the series and what it's supposed to be making you feel at any given time. Because this, I was talking about in the pre-thoughts and everything with what this series goes for with, like, its touches on humanity. This is absolutely a touch on humanity, too. Like, humans do shit like this. And human nature sometimes is very uncomfortable and upsetting. It's not always positive. And as uncomfortable and hard to watch as it can get sometimes with this stuff, it's like, you really have to pay attention to how the anime is portraying this kind of thing and, like, what it's trying to say. Like, you have so many anime out there that just have, like, fan service and stuff, especially with, like, minors, just for the sake of having it. And it's like, that's when it starts to be like a lot grosser to me and a lot more uncomfortable. But when it's actually trying to send a message or something, when it's trying to actually like say something important about humans and about nature and whatnot, I feel like that kind of like, you get it a lot more. It's still uncomfortable, again, especially when it's minors. But when there's actually something being said for it, that's a little bit better. Because again, you're not supposed to be turned on by this. This is absolutely one of those cases where you're supposed to be kind of like freaked out. It's like, what the fuck is she doing? This is not okay. She is literally sexually assaulting him. You're supposed to be as freaked out as Maru is. And when Kiriko comes in and there's the entire misunderstanding, it's like, that's a little tropey, yes. But you're also still supposed to be entirely on Maru's side in this and be like upset for him because of everything that happened against his will and everything. And again, he was getting a little aggressive with Kiriko beforehand, but Kiriko was even saying, it's like, I'll agree to it if you're still okay with this. He was technically giving consent, even if he was, uncomfortable with it. Maru could have definitely handled it better. Maru could have definitely been less aggressive. But Kiriko was consenting to it. He was just, worried about it because of them both being guys and it being very awkward and just because of everything. That's different than what was happening with this girl, because there was not consent there. Not at all. And that, I feel that's important to how this was portrayed here. And I think that's important for like what this show tries to paint in general. Like, not just with this episode and these kind of situations. I feel like there's a lot of talk about like human agency and whatnot in this, in various means and manners, not all like related to this kind of thing, but I feel like we're going to see more of that moving forward. And I'm very curious about how they're going to really continue to ring that into the characters and the story, because I mean, like, a big part of that already is the fact that, you know um Kiriko was transferred into his sister's body, um without having consented to doing such, and we don't know if his sister consented to such. And now his sister's just dead and he's piloting her corpse. That's fucked beyond reason. And he had no agency in that. His agency was taken from him by this doctor. And we don't know the whole situation. We don't know why this happened, or like why the doctor did this, why he ran away after. Like, if the sister consented to it, at least. We don't know. But there's definitely the theft of agency, nonetheless, with that action. And it's something that Kiriko cannot get back. That is gone. Forever. And I definitely think there's going to be, again, more of that in the future. More discussions on agency and whatnot. But we'll see. We'll see. This episode was still a little uncomfortable because of that. It definitely was. It's one of those things that, is one of the harsher things that some anime do. One of the harder things that, like, you sometimes have to put up with when watching anime. And it's just, yeah, it's icky. It's icky. But at least there's like an actual, like, in story and, moralistic reasoning for it with this series. It's not just being done for the sake of having fan service or whatnot, because again, you're not supposed to like what's happening. I almost compare it to Don to Don, where it's like, yeah, there's technically fan service, but it's not supposed to be seen as such. You're supposed to be grossed out by it. You're supposed to be upset by it. It's supposed to be really uncomfortable. So it's more akin to that, I feel. But yeah, it's still difficult to watch for obvious reasons. So, yeah, hopefully we're done with that. But I'm interested to see where this goes next because this episode felt like outside of the small portion with Heaven, it felt like it was less plot focused. Like I know they were like following up the lead they had gotten before Kiriko and Maru, but it's like it didn't feel like it was as big as previous episodes. It felt more not like filler exactly, but more like a side stop along the journey, you know? I feel like previous episodes have felt bigger. The only thing that felt big in this episode was what was going on with Tokyo's dream there with this weird alien girl. That seems important, but otherwise, not really. Outside of again the discussions on agency and whatnot. But that all being said, tell me in the comments below what are your thoughts on this episode of Heavenly Delusion. And for now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.